Regarding the U.S. support for Israel, you've obviously stated your support, but you also stated like, support for the two-state solution and for Israel to kind of calm down the settlements. But I guess would you believe that there's sort of a line for U.S. support for Israel, especially when Netanyahu sort of repeatedly sort of rejecting in negotiations or rejecting the two-state solution very explicitly, whether it is him kind of turning a blind eye to the actions of the settlers in the West Bank or actively expanding settlements, or of Israeli politicians who are basically talking about resettling or annexing, I guess, the Gaza after the war. Do you believe that if the Israeli government continues over and over again to reject any kind of peace, do you believe that the U.S.'s support should there should be a line?
So in Israel-Palestine, the issue with this region is that like both sides continue to screw each other over, like over and over and over and over and over again. And to get either of them to kind of like come together for some negotiated peace is just so difficult. I think the issue that you run into right now with Israel is, from Israel's perspective, and they don't do themselves any favors, right? Because some people will argue that Israel is expansionist, and Israel will say, well, no, not really. We just happen to expand every single time people attack us, which is true, but also, okay, we'll stop. Like you run into this issue where they basically get provoked over and over again by surrounding Arabs, and then once they get provoked, they expand as much as they can, and then now the surrounding Arab states are even more provoked, and as time has gone on, they've kind of all chilled because they're like, okay, well, Israel's here to stay, we're going to start fighting with them. But even in like the minor areas where Israel is seeing themselves as like giving peace, like historically, Israel fought against Egypt. They took the entire Sinai, and then Egypt was like, okay, fine, we're going to negotiate peace. Okay? The Soviet Union falls in 91, and without all the support from the Soviet Union, finally Jordan is like, okay, fine, peace. And then the Oslo Accords happened in 93, right? Every time Israel pulls out of someplace, when they've shown weakness, it feels like they get punished for it. So they get disengaged in Gaza in 2005, and then Hamas now has ruled Gaza since 2006. They pulled out of southern Lebanon, and now there's Hezbollah. So I think from the Israeli perspective, the Oslo Accords failed to materialize in the Camp David Summit, I think in 2000. When peace failed to materialize there, the second Intifada happens, and then they also get attacked and punished. So, and then the problem with Israel is they feel like every single time they show weakness or give peace, it ends up in some horrible terrorist attack or some horrible thing that now they feel like they need to show strength for. So there has to be less aggression on the Palestinian side and the support that they get from other people to push that aggression. But then I also agree, too, there needs to be less aggression from the Israeli side. They keep acting like they're the Yeshua of the 20s and 30s and 40s that are constantly on the brink of destruction, and they're not. Israel's there to stay. Everybody else knows it. But for some reason, Israel hasn't learned that yet. So every time they fight, they act like they're in an existential battle for their country, and they're not. They don't have to do the crazy reprisals of the retaliations, of the Haganah in the 40s, of the Israeli government in the 50s and 60s against the Fedayeen. They don't have to participate in wars like this anymore, but they continue to do so because they've got like that post-Holocaust mindset of everybody's going to eliminate them if they show any kind of weakness. I don't have like an easy, good answer, but yeah, both sides need to severely like calm the fuck down. And the problem is everybody is like riling both of them up to just fight. And it's so bad. It has to stop in Palestinians, and it needs to stop in Israel too. But as long as there's pressure from either side to keep fighting, like both of them will gladly fight until most likely the Palestinians won't exist anymore. But yeah.
I'm a really big fan of your stream. I just want to say it first. But I had one problem, I guess, mainly with your support for Israel and the fact that you said that it should be unconditional for now and not have that threat to take away as we speak and as they're fighting their war with Hamas.
To be clear, just so you don't waste your question, I don't think our support should ever be unconditional, right? Like if it was the case of tomorrow, they drop a nuke on Gaza City and like 500,000 Palestinians evaporate, I would say, okay, well, this is obviously way too far. I don't think it should ever be unconditional.
Yeah, that was my follow-up question was, is there an action, I guess, that Netanyahu or the Israeli government could take in the Gaza Strip that would cause you to withdraw your support immediately? Because right now we're at about, 21,000 dead, and I think majority are women and children, and we don't have the exact number between militants and civilians.
I don't believe the majority is women and children. I know that those numbers change sometimes. I've read an article about how those numbers change sometimes. I think the dead might be up to 27,000 now, from 21,000. I don't know what they're at. I don't think we've hit 30,000 yet, but I think we're around 27, 28,000. I mean, what would cause me to change my support? I mean, right now, really the only thing we can see publicly is like the ratio between dead militants, or what the idea claims are militants, to civilians. And I think right now that ratio is like 3-to-1, 4-to-1 between civilians and militants. And given that it's highly urban combat, I think that's about what we would expect to see, if not even greater ratios of civilians dead. So I guess as long as the numbers stay within roughly that corridor, I would expect that Israel's conducting itself in a way that is attempting to minimize civilian casualties. That would be one thing I would look out for. Another thing I would look out for is I'm pretty sure that a lot of the Gazans in South Gaza now have been moved into the IPC 5. I think it's IPC 5 category of, I think it's IPC, but it's like the international, it's the UN's way of determining like food security basically. And if it was the case that you started to see like famine crises like break out across all of southern Gaza, and those conditions continued and endured, and like people started to die of starvation, or we started to move in that direction, that would be something where we're like, okay, well, we need to stop and figure something out, because you can't just starve 1 or 2 million people to death if you could have military operations. This is not okay.